hope you are having a great day. Welcome back to my channel, Eldon Acres. I am Andrea, and today we are going to be doing some Sunday meal prep. So today is Sunday. I start back to work tomorrow, so I've been on maternity leave for just over a year now. So tomorrow is my first day back, so I figured I'm going to take the afternoon today and do a bunch of meal prep for the week so that we are set up for success. So right now, just behind me here on the stove, I've got some ground beef and some onions cooking up. We are going to use that for lasagna soups. I was on Pinterest the other night just kind of perusing and looking up some new to us recipes and saw that one, and I thought that one would be really good. So we've got the components for that just starting up. In front of me here I have some diced onion and diced cilantro. What we are going to do first though is prep some Santa Fe chicken. So this is a recipe that I created a few years ago. I don't know if I've ever posted it though. I should write it out and post it on my Instagram. I will do that so that you guys can find it. A really easy, awesome crock pot recipe. So I'm doubling the recipe today, which I often do. And I'm gonna put both of the recipes into freezer bags, and I'll probably pop both of them into the freezer. I'll pop them in the freezer flat so that they thaw out really quickly. And then, because I'm not 100% sure on our meal plan for the week, once I get a few things prepped, I'll sit down and do our meal plan. I'm kind of doing things a little bit backwards today just because I have a little bit of free time right now to get a bunch of meals, you know, going. Sorry, can't find my words today. So yeah, so we're gonna start prepping our Santa Fe chicken. We're gonna put 2 of them into freezer bags. So what we're gonna do first is get our veggies that we've already pre-diced into the freezer bags first. So the recipe calls for 1 yellow onion diced. You can use onion powder if you don't have an onion available to you. I've done that in the past too, but of course then it just cuts down on the amount of vegetables that you're going to have in the final product, which is fine. You can beef it up with veggies elsewhere, but if you have vegetables, if you have the onion available, put it in. It really adds some nice flavor, and we really like onions, so that works well for us. So we'll put about half in the one bag, and I have a yellow and a red onion. It's just what I had out of my garden, and it'll be just fine. It'll be delicious. So we'll put the other half of the onion in the other bag. So I make this recipe a lot. It's really super easy to prep. You could do it the morning of, like you're heading out the door. It takes about 10 minutes. You just kind of dump everything in. The longest part is, of course, the vegetable chopping. I'm gonna put half of our cilantro in one bag, half in the other bag. You can omit the cilantro. My husband isn't a huge fan of cilantro, but I love it. And I've got lots of it coming out of the garden right now, so I thought, you know what, this time I'm gonna put it in there. He doesn't hate it that much that he won't eat it, so that'll just be fine. I don't normally add it, we're just doing it this time. Okay, so that's our cilantro and our onions in there. Next up, so that I don't forget, we are gonna put our chicken in. So I'm gonna put 3 chicken breasts in each bag. I've got 2 packages each here. So we're gonna put 3 chicken breasts in each bag, and then we'll add the rest of our spices and ingredients. Okay, so we've got our chicken, our onion, and our cilantro in our freezer bag here. Now we are going to add a can of black beans. Doesn't matter what brand you use, just drain them, dump them in the bag, or your crock pot if you want to make this for dinner, like tonight or tomorrow night kind of thing. You're just gonna dump them straight into your crock pot and do it that way. And then we've also got our can of corn. Again, it doesn't matter what brand of corn you use. You can use fresh, you can use frozen, you can use in the can. I don't have fresh or frozen right now, but I always keep a small supply of canned vegetables in stock, you know, just for emergencies. It doesn't go bad for a long time, so they're good to have on hand. And in a situation like this, when you want to do some meal prep and you've forgotten something at the grocery store, it's super handy. If you're doing fresh or frozen, I would say 1.5 cups. This is 341 milliliters, so it's not, doesn't have to be perfectly precise. It'll turn out delicious anyways. So that goes in. And then we have a can of diced tomatoes. Now this is the brand that I can find that I really like to use. It's got your finely chopped tomatoes and green chilies in it, so it adds a really nice flavor. And then you don't have to add your extra peppers or anything. Everything is in here already. I do not drain the juice, so don't drain the juice. That'll just add extra flavor. And we're actually gonna put a can and a half in here. So the other half will go into the other one that we're doing. So I don't wanna put all the extra juice in, so I'm gonna put some of the extra juice in the can that I just emptied. And then just kind of eyeball, it's about half a can. And then we will add, just give it a little shake there, make sure it's sitting upright. I need to get some of those holders, you know, those freezer bag holders. I see a lot of influencers have them and they work really well. So then it's super easy. Then it's just a teaspoon each of our cayenne pepper. Now, if you don't like spice, you can half this or like omit it completely. That's fine too, and I've done that in the past. But honestly, it doesn't end up being too spicy. I'm gonna just do about half a teaspoon of salt. My beans, my black beans, were no salt added. I don't like to add a ton of extra salt. My chicken broth though is not no salt added, so we're just gonna go easy on the salt. A teaspoon of pepper. Again, alter this to your flavor, however your family likes spice. And then a teaspoon of cumin. We like cumin, so I usually do a heaping teaspoon. So we've got all of our spices in there. Then we're gonna add about half of a box of chicken broth. This is 900 mils, so about half. Again, does not have to be precise. Usually I honestly just do it until all of our ingredients are kind of covered. So I probably won't even add the full half. And that is it. That is how easy this recipe is. So we're just gonna seal it up. I've already got my bag labeled. We're gonna give it a little mix. How pretty is that before I mix it with all those layers? So pretty. Just give it a good mix to make sure all those spices get mixed in. And the nice thing about doing this as a freezer meal is it just gives it more time to kind of marinate and get all those flavors into that chicken. So we've got one, and I already did the other one. It's right here. So we've already got 2 meals to go in the freezer. As I said, one of these will get used this week, but I'm gonna put it in the freezer. We're gonna put it in the freezer laying flat. I have like a cookie sheet that I always use to freeze everything nice and flat. And then of course, once they're frozen, I just kind of stack them up in my freezer. My freezer needs a bit of an overhaul, so I'm not gonna show you how I organize things. One of these days I do have to organize it, but that day is not today, unfortunately. But anyways, we've got 2 freezer meals already prepped and ready to go. I'm just gonna take a minute to put all of my empty tin cans into the recycling bin, and then we're gonna get started on our lasagna soup. So one thing I just wanna add, how we will eat this. So we will put it in our crock pot. We'll thaw it out either just on the counter or in the fridge if you pull it out the night before. I'm usually not that organized, so usually the morning of I'll just pull it out, pop it on the counter while I'm getting ready. Because it freezes flat, it thaws out a lot faster, so that's kind of a hot tip that works really well for us. I have also just literally pulled it out of the freezer, put it in some hot water for 10 minutes just so that I can get it out of the bag, and then put it in the crock pot, put the lid on and put it on low for 8 to 10 hours, whatever works out for your day. And that's fine too. Honestly, this is a super easy meal. So anyways, you're gonna put it in your crock pot either on low for 8 to 10 hours or high for 4 to 6, just, you know, make sure that your chicken is cooked through. Then you're gonna take your chicken out, you're gonna shred your chicken up, put it back in, give everything a mix, put it on keep warm. Usually we serve it over rice and top it with some sour cream, some cheddar cheese, a fresh squeeze of lime. Oh, it's delicious. It's so good. And it's such a nice and fresh meal. Ready when you get home. Like, we just use the minute rice, so the rice takes 5 minutes. Sometimes if we want to be fancy, I'll do cilantro lime rice in the Instant Pot. But again, that doesn't take very long. You can prep it the morning the morning of. When you get home, click the on button and it does its thing as well. So the possibilities are kind of endless with this one, but we really like it. You can also turn this into a soup. So if you wanted it as a soup version, it's also really good. You just add, I would probably at least double the chicken broth. But again, just do it to your family's preference and then serve it as soup. You can still use the same toppings like your sour cream, your cheddar cheese, your lime. It'd be really good with those like Frito chips on it. That would be delicious too. Anyways, this is a winner in our house and we love to have it in the freezer. It is so easy, so quick, and it's delicious. Alrighty, so our next meal prep make ahead dinner is going to be a lasagna soup. So this one I'm going to do in my crock pot as well. So I've got my crock pot out here. I'm just going to dump everything in, and then all I'll have to do in the morning is pull it out of the fridge, pop it in the crock pot insert. I will set it to low for 8 hours and then it'll just switch over to keep warm because the ground beef is already cooked. So I've already pre-cooked the ground beef with the onion and the garlic in there, and I've drained off any of the extra fat that's in the pan. So next we are going to get going. I'm just going to set that aside for now. I need to cut up bell pepper, so we're going to put 1 bell pepper in there. Now I am actually going to double this recipe and put one of them in the freezer so that I've got one for future. I already have all the ingredients out. I'm already making a mess of the kitchen. I might as well go ahead and double the recipe. I've also got my garbage bag out here beside me. That's just kind of a nice little tip anytime we are doing a cooking day in the kitchen, a busy, big cooking day in the kitchen. I just pull out my garbage bag just to make life a little bit easier. It's already out, saved me opening and closing the cupboard door. These are beautiful peppers out of my garden. All of these, I just went and picked these, as well as this beautiful basil. Oh, it smells so good. And then a couple jalapeno peppers. My recipe doesn't call for the jalapenos, but I'm gonna add them in because I've got so many of them coming out of the garden. I just want to give these ones a wash. This one I had picked a couple days ago, so it was already washed, but I want to give these ones a quick rinse. Okay, so I've got all my peppers washed and de-seeded. So we're just gonna get them chopped up. We're just gonna do kind of a rough chop on them. Doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Friends, it's a few days later and we had this soup / casserole the other evening, and oh my goodness, it was so delicious. These fresh herbs that are in there just kicked it up a notch and made it so yummy. You can use whatever kind of tomato sauce that you like, whatever one you have on hand. Normally I would use homemade, but I don't have any available to me right now. So this is just what I had in the pantry and it turned out delicious. Honestly, you can use a cheaper tomato sauce, and then when you add your fresh herbs and spices, it just kind of kicks it up a notch. Now, the broth that you add, you can either add more or less depending on how thick you want it. So I added a little bit less, just the 1 carton. and it became more of a casserole than a soup, which we absolutely loved. But just do whatever your family would like. I also ran out of room in my crock pot. I should have used my larger crock pot to make it more of a soup, but as I said, we really enjoyed it as the casserole. Now, the amount of spices that you put in, your salt, pepper, and your crushed red pepper flakes is totally up to you and your family's preference. We like things a little bit on the spicier side, so I did add a little bit more pepper than the recipe calls for and a few more red pepper flakes, and we really enjoyed it that way. But I just wanted to add, this does look like a lot of pepper, but there's also a lot of ingredients in here. So just do whatever your family prefers and it'll work out just fine. Like I said, this one came together super fast and I can't wait to use the one that we prepared for the freezer in the future. I hope you guys like it as much as we did.
Okay, so we have all of our components together for our lasagna soup. Now, what will happen at this point, so I've got all of the ground beef, the veggies, all the spices, the broth, all of that stuff is already in here. So what I'll do tomorrow morning, I'll pop it into the crock pot insert, put it on low for 8 hours, and it'll cook away, do its thing, get delicious. When I get home around 5:30, 5:30, I will add the pasta. So I will do half of this package. Now this is a new pasta to me, but it is kind of like in the shape, it's kind of hard to see, kind of in the shape of lasagna noodles. What I've done in the past though is just broken up my regular lasagna long noodles, broken them up over the crock pot and used those, and they've worked great too. So whatever you have on hand, I just saw these at the grocery store and thought they might be fun. It's a new product out, so anyway, so that's what we'll do. We'll add this to the pot at the end, put it on high, and I'll let that go for an hour. My husband and I are usually eat after my daughter goes to bed. We're kind of late eaters in the evening after everything's done, so we won't eat until probably around 7 o'clock anyways, so that'll work out perfect for us. And then we'll add our cottage cheese at that time too. You can do cottage cheese or ricotta. I like cottage cheese because it adds a bit more protein to it. And then I'm also going to add some spinach. So this is just frozen spinach. Nice to add a little bit more veggies, and dark leafy greens are really good for us. So we'll be adding some spinach to this one too. But again, I'll probably, I mean, it's frozen, so it doesn't really matter. It'll just pretty well break down and disappear. So I might add that now so I don't forget, or I might add it when I add the pasta. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure what I'll do. But anyways, highly suggest adding some spinach. Fresh or frozen works well. Frozen is just so convenient. I have my freezer one right here beside me too. Got it all ready to go. We basically did the same thing. And what I'll do is I'll add a little note onto the freezer bag that says my cooking instructions for this one. So again, cook on low crock pot, 8 hours. At the end, add your noodles, your ricotta cheese, and pop up to high for an hour. So we'll do that, pop that in the freezer, that's ready to go. And then I always have lasagna noodles on hand, so I didn't buy an extra box of this. We'll just use lasagna noodles for that one when we go to cook that one. So yeah, that's it for this recipe. So I'm going to pop that in the fridge. It's ready to go. Like I said, just pull it out in the morning and we'll be good to go. When we serve this, of course, we'll serve it in a bowl. I might make a beer bread, or maybe I have a bread maker, a bread machine. I don't use it very often, but I can preset it to start working so that we have fresh bread basically when I get home. So maybe I'll do that for tomorrow, because that might be really nice to go with this. It was so cold last week, so it was really cold. I was in a wedding last weekend, outdoor wedding, and it was freezing. We wore our winter coats. And now this week, like today, I think it's 29, feeling like 34. It's hot outside. It's ridiculous. So this isn't really soup weather, but we'll enjoy it all the same. The freezer one I'll hold off and use during actual soup weather when it gets a little bit colder further on into the fall. But anyways, I'm gonna pop this into the fridge and we are going to get going on something else. I'm not sure what yet. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, we're going to get organized for supper tonight. So what I did this morning was I pulled out a roast out of our freezer. So this is an outside round roast, and it's about 4.38 pounds. which is close to 2 kilograms. So what I decided I'm going to do, which I've never done before, is I'm gonna pressure cook it in my Instant Pot and we'll see what happens. So I'm just kind of going off of the directions in the book that came with this is the Ninja, I forget what it's called, but it's like a multi-cooker, so it does a whole bunch of things. So normally what I would do is I would sear my roast and then I would slow cook it or pressure cook it. Although I've never pressure cooked anything, but in my mind that's what I would do. But my roast is still frozen because it's about 3 o'clock and I took it out around 8 o'clock. So it's a pretty thick roast, so it's still frozen on the inside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put it directly in the pressure cooker and we're gonna pressure cook it for about 2 hours. So it'll be ready for supper. We won't eat it at 5 o'clock, but it'll be ready for 5. So anyways, we'll see how this works. Hopefully it works out well. So the book says to add 250 milliliters of water to the bottom. What I'm gonna do is add beef broth because I have beef broth on hand. Gosh, I can't talk today. So we're gonna add that to the bottom. So that goes in. And it says to just cook it with water, but I'm gonna season and flavor things up a little bit. So I got my fresh garlic that I diced and keep in the freezer. So I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of that to the bottom. It's frozen, but I took it out about 10 minutes ago, so it breaks apart pretty easily. I'm actually gonna do 2 tablespoons. This is a pretty hefty roast and I want it well seasoned. So we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of garlic to the bottom. Anytime you're freezing garlic, always double bag it. And that just ensures that the flavors don't get into something else in the freezer. A little stir at the bottom. And then we're gonna get our roast in and then I'm gonna season it further. I'm sorry, it's a little bit awkward videoing over here. But I like using this counter because it keeps it out of the way. Look at that beautiful homegrown roast. Looks lovely. So this roast is from one of my dad's animals. There we go, so that goes in there. Which all of our meat comes from one of my family members, whether it's my dad, my uncle, or my grandfather. They all raise beef animals, so that's awesome. So I've got my garlic in there, I've got my beef broth, and I just went and grabbed some herbs from my garden. So I've got a couple sprigs of thyme here. I'm just gonna kind of crinkle them up with my hands and just kind of sprinkle stems and all. And then I've got a few stems of rosemary, and I'm going to strip them off and again just kind of sprinkle it all around. I'm gonna just maybe cut this one in half, tuck one over there, and same thing, maybe I'll just tuck those on the side. A couple sprigs. I want to grab some salt and pepper because I want to well season this with salt and pepper. Be right back. Okay, so this is a big roast, so it needs a lot of seasoning, so it's going to seem like a lot of salt, but it's a very large roast. It's 2 kilograms. It's 4.5 pounds basically. Salt and pepper. Now, if you're doing this at home, season it to your preference. This is just how we like it seasoned. Okay, so now I need to add my lid, lock it. I just need to grab my directions because I can't remember if, well, yeah, obviously it needs to be on seal. Never mind, I don't need my directions. We need it on seal because it's pressure cooking, so we want to build the pressure. And then we want to choose pressure. Time, I think I need 2 hours. Let me double check. So this is just the book that came with, oh yeah, Ninja Foodi Deluxe. That's what it is. So I'm just going off of a beef chuck eye roast, which is very similar. It's the same for that and the beef brisket. So, high. We're gonna do it on high for 1.5 hours. So it's on high. So I guess we just rotate it all the way to 90 minutes. Oh, so was that 1.5. So we've got it set. I don't know if you can see it there. Let me just drop you down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So we've got it set high, 1.5 hours, and start. So that's got to build up the pressure. So that's just going to build the pressure now. And then once the pressure builds, it starts to cook. Sorry, there we go. So we're just going to let that do its thing for 1.5 hours. And then I'm not sure what we're going to have with this yet. I haven't put too much thought into it. Usually I'm much more prepared than this, but because I wanted to get all these other meals organized for the week, I just went to the freezer. I'm like, a roast sounds good. We'll pull out a roast. I have some new potatoes. What do I have in the garden? Yeah, we'll do it with potatoes and probably a side salad. I've got some cucumbers that I have, so maybe we'll do a cucumber salad, which I've made with you all before. We'll see what happens. Next up, now that I've got this organized, I want to do some breakfast meal prep, so we're going to do some overnight oats. So let's get going on that. All right, so we are hopping right along. So I think this is going to be our last recipe of the day. I think. We'll see what happens. But anyways, right now we are working on our high protein overnight oats. You know, you save all these recipes, or I do, I save all these recipes and then I forget about them. Well, the other day I went back through and I remembered about this one and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. You can make it ahead, so that's what we're doing today, and you put it in your mason jars. I have the ball leak proof lids that I'll put on them, and then you just store them in the fridge, and they'll keep in the fridge for up to a week, maybe even more, I'm not sure. It doesn't say on the recipe, but I guess it just depends on the expiration date, maybe on your yogurt and your milk. So anyway, so let's get started. So first off, we are going to add everything, most of our ingredients, into our big bowl and mix it all together. So on the recipe here, it says to use a high protein yogurt of your choice. So I really like this one. It is Too Good by Danone. It doesn't have a ton of sugar and it's got quite a bit of protein in it. So it's got 14 grams of protein, 4 grams of sugar. So it's a low sugar yogurt, and that is per 3/4 of the container. So today we are going to make 4 of these cups. So that'll just be divided by, this will be divided by 4. I do have a little bit of yogurt in here. I had another one of these that I just had a little bit left in, so I added it because I wanted to get it used up. So that's already in there. So we are going to add this entire tub in here. I've got my favorite little spatula here. One thing I just thought of, you could reuse this container as one of your overnight oats vessels if you wanted, if you didn't have enough mason jars or you were just short on containers. That'd be handy. All right, so that's the entire contents of that container there. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I'm doubling the recipe. The original recipe is for 2 jars and I wanted to do 4, so we're doubling the recipe. So we've got our yogurt in there. We are going to add our milk. So the original recipe calls for 1/2 cup of milk, but we're going to add the full cup because again, we're doubling. So, and it doesn't specify. Yeah, the recipe says any kind of milk. So you could use a milk alternative too, which is kind of nice. This is just what we have because this is what my daughter drinks. My husband and I are not huge milk drinkers, but I do love yogurt, so. Okay, so we've got our milk, our yogurt. Now we're gonna add our oats. So I'm using quick oats, these ones here. The recipe says to use gluten-free old-fashioned oats, but this is what I have, so this is what we're trying. And it calls for 2/3 of a cup. Again, we're doubling it, so I'm gonna do, this is my 2/3 cup, so we're gonna do 2 of them. And then we're gonna add our chia seeds. So 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. So that's, we're gonna do 4 tablespoons of chia seeds. And I'm actually using a flax and chia blend. I feel like it'll still work all right. So maybe because I'm using a flax chia blend, maybe I will triple it. Okay, so the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. Just because it's like, it's half and half flax, half chia. So I'm just wondering if it's not gonna be enough chia seeds. So maybe I will quadruple it. So originally the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons, we're doubling it. So I would add 4 tablespoons. I think I'll add 8. Maybe I'll do 6. Let's do 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully I don't regret that. I mean, I'll eat it either way. Worst case, there's just too many chia and flax seeds in there and I thin it out with more yogurt. I feel like that should be fine. The recipe here calls for sliced almonds. I don't have any sliced almonds, but I thought it would be good to add coconut. So the recipe says 1/4 cup of sliced almonds. I think I'm just going to add, I don't know. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Yeah, so I guess probably about 1/4 cup. And this is medium unsweetened coconut, so there's no added sugar here. And it's just kind of for flavor. I know coconut's not like the healthiest, but it is, I think it's considered a healthy fat. Okay, so let's just double check here. Okay, so we've got our yogurt, oats, milk, chia seeds, and coconut. We're gonna stir to combine and let thicken for 5 minutes. It smells pretty good already. I also feel like I'm going to add some of my Cinnamon Plus, my Pampered Chef Cinnamon Plus Spice Blend. So it's a blend of cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, orange peel, cloves, and ginger. I'm not gonna measure it. Just gonna do kind of 8 shakes. I really like cinnamon, so I feel like this is gonna make it just kind of like a bread pudding maybe, or like a rice pudding is kind of like the idea in my mind anyways. It smells delicious. That's how we're looking right now. Okay, so I'm gonna set this aside and let it thicken for 5 minutes. While I'm letting it thicken, I'm gonna go ahead and get my berries washed up. So I've got some raspberries and strawberries that I'm gonna put in this one. So it says you can use fresh or frozen. Now I've got fresh that I need to use up, so that's what I'm gonna use today. But it would be super easy just to use frozen because I have a ton of frozen strawberries that I put up during strawberry season back in June. And I always save them for like smoothies or strawberry rhubarb pie, that kind of thing. Ooh, a strawberry rhubarb overnight oats might be pretty good too. I'll have to remember that. Anyways, that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and get the berries washed. Well, this is, I guess it's got to rehydrate the oats and the chia seeds and the flax. So we will be back once I'm ready to assemble. Okay, so I've got our mixture here. It has sat for, it's been over 5 minutes because I did some dishes just to get everything cleaned up. I've got my jar of strawberries here and I just washed up a bunch of beautiful raspberries. So the recipe says to scoop 1/2 cup into the bottom of each mason jar, chop with 1/2 cup of fruit berries, and then repeat layers. Top with the sliced almonds, then screw on the lids. So what I think I'm going to do, I have my little scoop here. I think this is the large one. I'm just gonna put a large scoop in, berries, another scoop, berries, another scoop, berries, just to kind of alternate it. And then I think that'll look really pretty too. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna work one at a time here. Okay. Oops. All right, so we've got a scoop. Put it in the bottom. Maybe I'll do 2 scoops, Just doesn't seem like quite enough. There we go. And then we'll add a handful of berries. We'll do raspberries in this one, or this layer anyways. Try not to make a mess of the rim. 1 scoop, 2 scoops. Just kind of jiggle it around so that it settles in there. And then this layer, maybe we'll do some strawberries. A little tip if you're storing fruit. So where we live, I don't know, our closest grocery store, our closest decent grocery store is probably about 20 minutes, half an hour from us. We kind of live in the very middle of nowhere. So what I like to do with my berries is I wash them, cut them up, and store them in mason jars with my ball leak-proof lids, and they keep much longer that way. So these strawberries are probably at least a week old, I would think, and they're still perfect. How pretty is that? Oh, that's just beautiful. I think I'm gonna add just a little bit more maybe on top. Here we go. I'm excited. This is gonna be delicious. I feel like this is a very big breakfast. I'm not a huge breakfast person, so what I'll probably end up doing with this is taking this to work with me, and then I'll probably eat it. I might even just eat it for my lunch. I'm not sure. We'll see. You'll have to check back to see how we like them. I'll just set that one aside, and then we'll do our other one, our second one. So we'll do 2 dollops in the bottom, a handful of raspberries, maybe a couple more. And then we'll do another 2 dollops. Some strawberries. It smells really good. I'm really excited. The only thing when you store your strawberries like this, I packed these in here because I had so many to store. They kind of are a little tricky to get back out. And we'll do just a little bit more. A dollop on top. Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna do the last 2, and then I'll show you what the finished product looks like. All right, so we got all of our overnight, high protein overnight oats finished up there. So this is what we're looking like. They're really pretty, and I'm so excited to eat them. So we've got 4 jars here. They all are ready to go. I have to find some fridge space for them, but I'm really excited about that. And then we've got our supper organized for tomorrow night. We've got our lasagna soup ready to go. Just pull out of the fridge and pop it into the slow cooker insert, and that'll be ready, well, ready-ish when we get home. We just have to add the noodles to that one, and then the cottage cheese and Parmesan cheese on top when we serve. That'll be delicious. And I remembered that I have some, I call them cheese sticks. I bought them at the grocery store. My daughter loves them, and we will have those with it. So I'm not going to make a bread. I'm not going to heat the house up any more than it needs to be. So we'll just enjoy those. We need to use them up anyways. So we'll have those with the soup. We've got 1 freezer lasagna soup to go in the freezer, and I just added on my directions here, I don't know if you can see it, that we're going to cook on low for 8 hours, and then we add our noodles to that one, kick it up to high, and finish that off. So that'll go in the freezer. We'll use that once the months get a little bit cooler there. And then we've got 2 of our Santa Fe chicken just ready to dump into the crock pot. And we will enjoy that over some rice, probably with some sour cream, lime, and maybe some cheddar cheese spread on top. And that will be delicious. So I'm gonna get these guys popped into the freezer, this stuff popped into the fridge. We've got our roast in the pressure cooker, Ninja, Foodie, whatever you want to call it. So it's cooking away. I still haven't fully decided what we're gonna do with that for supper, but that's okay. We've got our protein organized, so that's the main thing. I might just boil up some potatoes, as I said, and then do the side salad. That's what I'll do. I'll just keep it simple. So yeah, anyways, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It means so much to me that you want to spend time in my kitchen with me. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it again, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much, and take care. Bye, guys.